Wait, what? Half your skills are already dead?
That's right, they are completely useless today.
You spent years mastering them. Now they mean nothing.
The clock is ticking. How will you survive this crisis? Okay, take a breath. Think of this explainer as your ultimate survival guide. We're going to break down exactly how you can master complex skills insanely fast, outsmart your competition, and beat the rapid decay of your own expertise. We're giving you this system to fight back.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, the knowledge half-life crisis.
Tracking the value of an engineering degree over time is, frankly, terrifying. Back in 1930, the knowledge you gained had a half-life of 35 years. You were set for a while. By 1960, that dropped to 10. And today, we're looking at maybe 5 years. For software engineers, it could literally be as low as 2.5 years. What this actually means is that staying relevant is essentially a permanent second job. You're putting in like 10 extra hours a week just to keep your head above water. And, hey, this isn't just some gut feeling. It's a heavily documented phenomenon in scientometrics. The term half-life of knowledge was coined by economist Fritz Machlup way back in 1962. It means exactly what it sounds like. Just like radioactive material decays, so do the facts and practices you rely on every single day. Half of what you know right now is going to be proven untrue or totally superseded by new tech.
So you really need to understand the difference between eternal and ephemeral knowledge. Think of your skills like items in a pantry, okay? Eternal knowledge, stuff like algorithms, system design, spatial reasoning, critical thinking, those are your canned goods. They survive for decades. But ephemeral knowledge, specific APIs, current software versions, the latest social media algorithms, those spoil like fresh milk. And the uncomfortable reality here is that most of your day-to-day work relies heavily on those ephemeral, rapidly spoiling skills.
Section 2. Enter the ultralearner. So ultralearning is definitely not about traditional schooling or sitting passively in some boring lecture. It's a self-directed, incredibly intense strategy. Basically, an aggressive optimization of how you learn. Ultralearners don't just study, they dive into the deep end, pushing themselves to the absolute limit to compress their learning into the shortest time possible. Scott Young, who literally wrote the book on this, used this exact strategy to pass the final exams of MIT's entire 4-year computer science program in just 12 months. Crazy, right?
But, hey, before you brush this off thinking it's only for absolute prodigies, listen to this quote from the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. "I was an ordinary person who studied hard." Surviving this half-life crisis requires a deliberate system, not innate genius. Literally anyone can become an ultralearner if they apply the right principles.
Which brings us to Section 3. Map and focus your attack.
So the crucial point is you absolutely must start with meta-learning. That's learning how to learn your specific subject. You build a custom map by answering 3 big questions. First, why do you want to learn it? Second, what concepts, facts, and procedures must you master? And third, how do people usually learn this subject? Answering these identifies your bottlenecks right off the bat and prevents you from wasting hundreds of hours.
As a solid rule of thumb, you should invest about 10% of your total expected learning time into this initial research and planning phase. Then, once that map is built, the remaining 90% is purely for deep, intensely focused learning. You carve out ruthless chunks of time, fight off the urge to procrastinate, and just dive in.
Section 4. Drill with brutal directness.
Listen, directness is absolutely everything here. You have to learn by doing the exact thing you want to become good at in the actual context you're going to use it. In educational psychology, they call this transfer, and it is the undisputed holy grail of education. To pull it off, you can't just hide behind comfortable theory or tutorials. You have to plunge right in and practice in messy, real-world scenarios.
Here's how you break down this direct then drill approach. First, practice in context. Then, just like in a chemical reaction, isolate your rate-determining step. What is the single weakest bottleneck that's slowing you down? Find it. Isolate it. Then, drill that specific weak component relentlessly until it becomes a strength. Once it is, integrate it right back into your direct practice. Isolating your weakest point is, without a doubt, the fastest way to accelerate your overall proficiency.
Moving on to Section 5. Test, fail, and remember.
This brings us right back to the Feynman Technique. Named after our physicist friend Richard Feynman, this is literally the ultimate tool for building true intuition. It forces you to prioritize actual deep comprehension over shallow rote memorization. Because think about it, If you only know the name of something, you don't actually know anything about it. You have to be able to explain it.
And this brilliantly illustrates the process. The steps are incredibly simple, but they are ruthless. First, choose a concept. Second, explain it out loud to a sixth grader or, hey, even a rubber duck sitting on your desk. Third, the second you stumble, assess those knowledge gaps and go directly back to the source material. Finally, review and simplify using your own analogies. Jargon almost always hides a lack of true understanding. Seriously, if you can't explain it simply, you just don't know it.
Now, to make all this hard-won knowledge actually stick, you need bulletproof retention. Our brains forget things like a leaky bucket. We lose information through decay, interference, and lost cues. To seal up that bucket, you have to actively seek immediate, uncomfortable feedback. You have to practice aggressive retrieval by testing yourself way before you feel ready. That struggle, that friction, psychologists call it desirable difficulty, and it's the exact mechanism that wires information deeply and permanently into your brain.
Finally, Section 6, Experiment to Achieve Mastery.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the final stage. You see, early learning is all about accumulation, gathering up new facts, following the paths already trodden by others. But true mastery, it requires a profound contrast. It actually requires unlearning. You have to aggressively unlearn stale, ineffective habits and push yourself to experiment way beyond your comfort zone. You need to develop your own unique style to solve problems in ways nobody else has even imagined yet.
The world is accelerating faster than ever, and half of what you know right now is already expiring. You simply cannot rely on the skills you mastered years ago to save you tomorrow. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. What obsolete skill will you unlearn today to make room for tomorrow's mastery?